The global COVID-19 pandemic has had huge disruptive effects on normal life. For schools, students, and parents, the impact of closed schools and children stuck at home with little or no access to learning, the effect has been devastating. Experts estimate that a whole year of learning could be lost, meaning a whole cohort of students could be permanently lagging behind in their learning. That is why Education Department should in any way to continue schooling despite pandemic. While the coronavirus has infected over 322,000 people in the Philippines, a total of over 24 million elementary and high school students in both public and private schools were affected with the adjustments of education in the times of pandemic. No long lines at the school gates, no excited students wearing colorful backpacks, no children crying as parents leave them in classrooms. But the school bells are ringing, and it is through unprecedented means. This prompted the schools and the school managers to decide through the Learning Continuity Plan the appropriate learning delivery modalities suited to their own context. In most areas, specifically in our location, 98% of our schools resorted to printed modular distance learning. The question now is, are we ready? This prompted confusion since a sudden closure of schools happened in March, and there are no even clear notice yet when the school year will open and how will the school year starts, considering widespread epidemic flushed in all parts of the country. As the school year progresses from its opening last October 5, more and more challenges were encountered in the day-to-day delivery of the basic education services. So what is the problem here? There are a number of daunting challenges that need to be addressed and overcome for distance education to be efficiently and effectively delivered. The challenges encountered to wrap up are poor internet connectivity, problems with family support, there are concerns in the learning modules, the pedagogies itself, the lack of technological capability of the personnel, the stakeholders' preparedness, and we have also issues on assessment. Number one is the preparedness of stakeholders in the new normal of distance education. The first question is, who are our stakeholders? We have our students, teachers, school administrators, parents, and external partners. The question now is, who is ready? Are they ready? Are all our stakeholders ready for the modular distance learning delivery? How prepared are our students, teachers, school administrators, parents, and external partners for distance learning? Distance learning will require a different mindset for all stakeholders. For students, how will they cope with longer periods of not being with classmates for physical and social interaction? For teachers, how will they manage the stresses of teaching and student learning from a distance? For school leaders, how will they manage the systems, processes, and operations in remote educational delivery? For parents, how will they manage the additional new responsibility of children going to school at home? And for external partners, how will they be able to sustain their support to the resources of the school? How long can our teachers and our students endure the responsibilities, knowing that any one of us can be sick anytime? The second problem is technology. The question is, are we technologically prepared? Do we have a well-structured ICT infrastructures that can accommodate our learners? Given the situation that 85% of our learners are coming from marginalized and poorest areas, how can technology be a matter of learning when resources are not available? Are all our teachers and learners equipped with skills to shift from traditional to technology-based teaching and learning? Are technological gadgets available at home? Are the geographical locations of learners considered as hotspots to access strong signal connections? The question now, what are effective technologies to deliver educational content and materials will be used in our schools and learning centers? Are these technologies fitting to the context of the learners? What technologies, whether high or low tech, work best in distance education? Even in face-to-face learning, the question of technology revolves around how to engage students in their own self-learning. And today in the new normal, how would technology work in the learning process, considering our communities, our learners, and even our working force is not prepared and equipped for this? How did pedagogy play part in the new normal? While the curriculum or the subjects comprising a course is the same whether classes are face-to-face, remotely delivered, or through homeschooling, the pedagogy or the method and practice of teaching is going to be different for each. Think of the difference between having a meeting where all participants are in the same room and a meeting via Zoom or Meets where all participants are plugged in remotely. Participating in the online meetings requires different attentions, protocols, and methods of managing meetings. Think about how much more tiring participating in such online meetings are than in face-to-face meetings. Teaching such distance classes will require new methods and practices. But how did our teachers adjust to these pedagogical processes? In the same way, keeping children engaged over long periods of time without physical activity to break up the learning day will be a major challenge, especially for young children. So the question remains on how to engage children creatively in learning, particularly distance learning under a new normal without the presence of teachers to check on how well the learners are doing at home. TVL or Technology, Vocational and Livelihood Education being focused on practical skills and work readiness makes remote learning particularly challenging. Practical skills are often acquired through learning by doing, which occurs in school-based workshops and laboratories or through hands-on experience at the workplace. These negative impacts will be significantly higher for marginalized children, such as those living in areas affected by conflict or other protracted crises, the migrants, refugees, and the forcibly displaced minorities, children living with disabilities, and children in institutions. And in most schools, one major challenge is the distance education of children with disabilities and the slow learners. There is also a major shift now in logistics for education as education services shift from classroom-based to distance learning, whether online or through learning packets. And what happened? The schools are running out of resources due to overwhelming printing costs and equipment. The abrupt shift from classroom-based to modular-based teaching learning designs eventually lead to imbalanced expenditures, resulting to scarcity of school resources and finances. External stakeholders has been supporting now the schools, but even with supports from partners, still this would not warrant sustainability in the reproduction of materials before the end of the different quarters. The most challenging concern now that schools and its stakeholders experience is the ability to generate more resources to supply the bulk printing of learning materials in schools. What else are the problems encountered in the content of the learning materials? To mention few, the erroneous contents due to rush preparations, key concepts in the learning materials are limited and not deepened, the activities and exercises provided are not suited to the multiple abilities of the learners, The language use and degree of difficulties to different types of learners were not even considered. And assessment designs in the materials are not sensitive to the abilities, interests, developmental preparedness, and available resources at home. Learning is moved now to the students' homes, and parents will somehow take on the role of teachers. Due to these changes, several concerns have been raised, such as what kind of instruction will be done at home, how will the parents manage their children's learning, especially the toddlers, the kindergartens, grades 1 and 2, and what class schedule will full-time working parents follow. There were even questions as to how will the parents be able to manage to help their kids learn while looking for ways to earn? And how can they teach their children if they have not finished higher levels of education? So what is the challenge? Most parents could not attend to their children because they are still working. And most parents could not assist their children because they find it hard to understand the lessons because it is beyond their comprehension. The most difficult is how would teachers ensure that learners are learning from the modules, and how would teachers ensure that all learners are given equal attention, considering that there are still more tasks ahead that consumes most of their time. Unlike in physical classes, where he can assess how the students comprehend with the materials that he presents, distance learning somehow limits the social cues for him to see if his students have absorbed his lesson. For a week, teachers must still do these tasks: deliver and retrieve the learning materials, print and sort learning materials for succeeding weeks, prepare weekly plans, prepare supplementary and remediation materials, attend to learning sessions and trainings, check the papers for formative tracking, follow up students for the activity of the week, conduct home visitation. And if these are going to be the work bombarding the teachers for the whole week, the tracking of learners' progress will become the last considerations for teachers. There were even claimors now from teachers that they find it difficult to follow up students living in hard-to-reach areas. Those areas not reachable by phone signals and not accessible by transportation. As the school year progresses from its opening last October 5, again, more and more challenges were encountered in the day-to-day delivery of the basic education services. But what actions can be taken to minimize the challenges? The answer is, a holistic and proactive approach is recommended to ensure immediate crisis remediation as well as a smooth transition to the new normal. The first one is to understand the new reality. By conducting reassessment of school processes and mechanisms against the existing response framework to understand scope and scale of impact on the education system. And if we were able to understand the new reality, it will help us mitigate immediate impact of crisis from a policy, structural, social, and financial perspective. We have to disregard what doesn't work well, and let's all improve what contributes to success. And when based on revision, let us define our education system's new reality and determine gap to reach future target. The second is building capabilities. We have to invest in building human resource capabilities and ensure uniform teaching standards and skills for education delivery. The focus on teacher development program on the most essential, specifically on the needs and gaps in the implementation of the new education system, is a must. We have to ensure also availability of support for distance learning and develop strategies and promising practices or innovations on different learning platforms. The third one is we need to reinvent our model. We have to create alignment between curriculum, teaching, assessment, and learning in school and non-school environments to meet new normal educational challenges. Let us discover approaches to re-envision the classroom to promote and sustain student-centered and creative pedagogies. And we have to make sure that we will master strategies and skills needed to promote hybrid delivery of curriculum. We have to learn ways to empower students and teachers and parents to manage new challenges in new normal schooling. In these trying times, we are compelled to come up with innovative and creative ways to implement our plans to troubleshoot challenges. And together, we can make better things happen.